look a little bit like Elvis with these kind of colored glasses, I think. Today is January 23rd, Saturday. Some frost this morning, and we might get some snow around here tomorrow. I'll include this one in critical thinking series again. So I wanted to say, as the professor of socio-cybernetics, that in the upcoming crash of the proto-civilization that we have globally, because as a majority of the people-primates have decided that life as themselves was about advancing in a fictional monopoly game and a fictional war game. I'm not saying there hasn't been behaviors of war, but I'm saying that they're still acting like this and still calling themselves sapient and sentient, right? They still believe they are better than other species in a lot of ways. It's a big piece of wood. So in this upcoming crash, which will happen in my lifetime, let's say if I make it to 70, and most certainly in the younger people's generation, is there will be different types of crashes because they're all interconnected in these fictional ways to see the world that I just described. But one of these specific crashes will have particular relevance in relation to being able to adapt or deviate from the norm of these societies and apply solutions. So, for example, right now I see the United States having an advantage in this, so that if a lot of these solutions are already applied or on the way, like the foundation is set for the problem solving that they know will be required after this specific type of crash, because the proto-civilization, when it crashes, it's not a one-day thing. It has different types of crashes at different dates, and the one I'm talking about is when it is too late if you don't have a particular foundation of problem-solving solutions already in place. Now, I know Canada, I've been talking about this for a long time, is nowhere near this, and it's not heading towards any of this. The United States has set a new course where it might. Some countries are, but they're very rare. Most of them are still in this fictional monopoly game, economic life, war game, military deterrent nonsense. So yeah, there is some frozen, icy stuff here today, and it's about noon today. So when I went to Norway, I think it was more than 3 years ago now. I think it was the fall, the early fall of 2017. I didn't officially ask for asylum status. They wanted me to, they kept wanting me to. And I said, no, I've presented you ways that you are the actual department that can grant me visas so I can be of service. Here are my specialties that you need. And eventually they broke their own laws and chose for me. And then they even chose for me, I wanted to appeal it. And then they pay this lawyer, that particular department pays this, who doesn't want to go against the norm, because nobody from my country would succeed in the appeal, right? Because of these fictional games I've been telling you about. So they spent thousands of dollars to send me back, although I never chose. And I provided them with enough data that if they follow their own laws and the Charter of Human Rights and all of the agreements that their countries are part of, they already had enough data to grant me this asylum. But they didn't want to set the precedent. So that's quite sad. They sent me back, and I suffered a lot more discrimination and hardships in Canada. But I also decided that when I would eventually try again, because Canada is continuing its downfall, and Canada, the reason I'm an expert in Canadian socio-cybernetics more is randomly born here and collected the most data here and had the most experiences here and picked up the patterns here with more certainty than anywhere else. Now, people primates here, the Homo communia, the 99.6 nice people in society, the common man, woman of the day, they are the same all around the world. So they all succumb in the same ways to human domestication syndromes that I call HSD. So they will certainly all react in the same way to these times and the upcoming times. But in Canada, I'm certain that it's continuing this way. So it's very likely that even if I establish myself here in a way that I'm of service, is by showing myself with love of myself and the right value I believe I have, is I still know that in my limited life, I'm supposed to make choices where I will be as likely to be part of the solution than the problem at higher levels, and it cannot be in Canada. It will have positive effects on Canada if I write a book and if I document like I'm supposed to, like I've been promising, all the work I do for free online for everybody to see. Of course, it'd be nice to have support. So, of course, it'll be available to them, these solutions, but I'm more likely to succeed at these solutions in a community that will embrace me for who I am. So, if I do eventually ask for asylum in a different country, is that there'll be overwhelming evidence that it should be granted. And already a lot has been put online, including in these blogs, and documented through emails and videos and pictures and writing. So it'd be enough to grant 12 people really asylum. But I'm hoping not to do that, right? I'm hoping that this country, if it is really the best one, I'm hoping to have acquired the right skill sets and get the right visa, that I can do that without seeking asylum. Now, if I do seek asylum, it's one of the advantages that it would be of more benefit that I leave to this other country for Canada, because it would send a stronger message to Canada. It wouldn't make me very popular, but that's not the point of an independent scientist who's learned certain things and who is responsible to share it with the world to have the most positive impact. So popularity is not part of the equation. Support, collaborations, cooperations are part of the equation to be successful in presenting these solutions to the world well documented. So it'd be nice. It'd be nice to get that visa for the other country. But even if I didn't, and I went for the asylum this time, aside from these videos, there's so much more data that I've accumulated that they would not, this other country, have levels of hypocrisy that are as high as Canada, and ignore all of that data that they'd be provided that is open to the public to see online forever, pretty much, unless, you know, the places where I put it, even if I put it on independent blogs, would censor it in some way. And it'd be shame on you, and it'd be showing maybe the Homo communia are not even worth, well, they would be almost impossible to save, but it's not impossible to do mitigation ventures for their kids and grandkids' generation. But it would almost be like they don't deserve that, or the species as a whole shouldn't be granted this assistance if even what I post online for free as solutions are eventually deleted. So, and I wouldn't be like, oh, they know not what they do. No, they know what they do. So they will get what they deserve, right? Because they're very aware. They feel guilt for what they do, and they don't understand why they can't deviate from behaviors that when they interact with me and have more clarity, they suddenly still act the same way and feel more guilt. So they prefer not knowing how to explain it to people, but they kind of send kind of good reference but bad reference at the same time to make other people doubt whether they should interact with me, because they don't understand why they feel horrible about themselves interacting with me when I did nothing wrong. Anyways, so I'm looking into buying a passenger van here, which would fit into projects I've been working on for years. And I've documented more than a year being in Canada, trying to be of service, and they block it. They create problems, there's discrimination, there's shunning. There's ways they try to domesticate me to be part of what they think they want, which is not what I know they need. So I can't accept this, right? I don't do things for a paycheck. I'm a mortal who wants to have my life mean something, right? That's what a sentient and sapient operating system chooses to do. And so I'm documenting all this. So yesterday I go to one of the 2 walk-in clinics, which seems to be United States owned, and very confusing getting information about them online. And they said to get a medical, you know, to keep my commercial driver's license that has small buses, it would cost $214. Now, if I pay this amount, and let's say my blood pressure is a bit high, they'll say, oh, it's a bit high, but we'll be okay because you paid $214, right? If I give it to them in the US dollars, it'd be even better. I could probably get away with things in my medical report that may not be as good as slightly elevated. And I just want to pass in the fair way because it's safety, right? They might not act like responsible medical personnel, but I will not allow them to using my name. So I want to pass with my physical and mental health being where it should be. But of course, if I paid this $214, it would pass right away, you know, even if some things are questionable. And I'm not saying they are, I don't know. It's been a while since I had a medical, but I'm pretty sure I'm above average. So I'm going to go somewhere else to try to see if they charge less. When I had my last regular doctor would occasionally not charge me for this, and it's because, you know, he kept having kids and he kept supporting my driving school, so he wanted me to be around to. And it's not like he was faking the medicals, it's just that he wasn't putting an extra barrier for me, and that was a sense of community, although he was using me, grooming me, domesticating me for a particular purpose, thinking it was good for me. But studying his metapsychology more, would have realized you know, was not very scientific motivations for a medical professional. So I also called HealthBC yesterday, found out, because they did read what I wrote on the letter, that they did get my letter that says, shame on you for complicating things for me, just like the province of Quebec did, where I will soon be about 1 year without not just private, but public medical assistance funding, you know, like a insurance plan that is legally mine to have as a Canadian-born person. But I'm being, again, discriminated against and punished for living a life uncommon. So they still want me to do, it doesn't matter if I'm right there in front of them in Quebec where I was with my family longer than I wanted to be, or it doesn't matter that I'm here at a Service BC office. They still want me to jump through these hoops, and for me, I'd feel victimized. And, you know, right now I think I can go without medical assistance other than paying for this, for the purpose of being of service to my community here, while I have more time to work on my long-term projects, to make the most out of my life, to be of service to all of the greater concept of life in the biosphere on this planet. More in the mountains down there. So I'll look into that. I'll probably pay for that medical. Now when I do my taxes again, if I do, I will declare these medical expenses. Now they might not agree, the Canada Revenue Agency, but I can document that these are to be part of a system where I make income and you get taxes out of it, is I have to pay these medical because your own governments, provincial or federal, are failing me in this way. So for me, it's most certainly a business expense that has to be included. And so I'm just letting somebody walk by here. So this bus is actually, this small vehicle is actually meant to help with cuts in transportation here, but it's also to work on projects where I would be able, while I'm in Canada, to have a small outdoor school of my own and have an assistant and have a small number of children that are not going to be charged a lot, but just pretty much enough to pay for my expenses. of the business. Not even the living expenses or a salary for me, but a small salary for the co-facilitator that I will have. And I will say exactly what skill sets I want this co-facilitator to have, working with children, let's say 3 to 5 years old, except that they will believe they have it, most likely, because let's say they have ECE certification, or they're a certified teacher or assistant in some way, based on, the certification that are subpar, given in weird ways that are not based on having positive results with kids, but just fitting through this domesticated democracy that they believe brings quality when it actually brings a lack of quality. I will say this is a skill you will need. You'll be on probation. And then I'll say in the ad, I am willing to entertain people that are certified teachers or certified ECE, even if you have those certifications, but you will be on probation most definitely. And you will be required to demonstrate what you preach, which is, let's say, being a lifelong learner, where both I and them will occasionally be videotaped through permission of the parents who sign up their kids when, let's say, there's an issue between kids, and to show how to deal with it in the right way. Now, this other person, let's say with ECE, might not have the best approach, and when I want to teach them the best approach, and then you could see it by the results with the children, which is what matters. If that person is ego or arrogance driven, then they will eventually have too many triggers come up that without the right types of intelligence or training, let's say as a real life skills coach, they would not be able to deal with, and eventually they would not pass their probation period. That'd be sad. So then maybe until they pass it, I shouldn't have the certain number of kids with the school in the bus, even if there's many seats, to actually make it that I can't do it on my own with the legal numbers, because I never want to break the laws, but I always criticize the laws when they don't make sense, especially when I've provided evidence why they don't make sense. And of course, I put children first. When I was a ECE union steward, and my supervisors wanted to talk to me, I said, okay, well, that as a union representative, this is confidential, but you must also know that I always put children first. So if I hear things that make me worry about the children, that supersedes the role of your union representative. And of course, they wouldn't understand till later. They'd have weird paranoid doubts whether they told me something or not without asking. And I would say, well, you're not at the point I'd approach the police or the employer, but I would really like to make sure that you take time off and get a doctor's note with the employer so it's easy for you to take time off before you come back to work. Now, of course, people that are higher status in these ECEs or teacher-related cultures would not see this as the right thing to do for the children, because they see me as below them in this way, even though they approach me for help, right? So this is part of the human domestication syndromes. So far I will not have medical, and I will be bankrupt to even acquire and have to beg with banks or whatever. And there's programs that I should have access to, like Opportunities Fund. I talked to WorkBC, and WorkBC said, well, we could pay to renew your first aid, but to pay for your medical, no. So again, this is like when I was in Africa and I see that there's millions and millions from different countries coming in, and it never reaches the villages and the communities in need. Because if you feed rice again and give tents to refugees that are suffering from trauma and that are needing to heal and reinvent a new community for them to belong to, and all you're doing is this, tents and rice, where somebody else is making a profit on the rice, and it was cheaper in their country to get the rice, then you are not working on the right solutions. So this blog was telling you about an update of my day, my week, because I was pretty frustrated for 2 days. I was mad, and I had to get to the last resort of saying like a little spiritual prayer before a job interview that I would really want. It'd be a good fit for me in a lot of ways. and a good fit for the employer and the communities. And I was feeling upset for many hours in the morning before that interview, that second interview. So, and I have a lot of emotional type intelligence, but I was having a hard time reframing all those triggers from the Homo communia, the people-primates, and that's suffering from species alienation. It was a harder day with a bad night's sleep because of a loud neighbor. So I said a prayer, but it's not a prayer to any supernatural entity. It's just putting it out there. And it could just be putting it out there with me hearing myself and finding some extra, resilience inside of me because I think the interview went kind of well, but I don't believe it's Gaia or Mother Earth or anything like that, because I'm an independent scientist. I can't be religious at the same time. I can be spiritual, but I have to define how I am. It's probably not the same as other people. So we'll see. In a few days I might know if I get this job. And even if I get this job, I was told it might not be, even with a very firm letter of commitment and contract, it might not be enough to acquire this van. So challenges and challenges all the time, trying to be of service here when all they want me to do here is what they want and not what they need. And they, of course, can't reference the outside world, so they don't understand that I can only live the rest of my life as me, not as who they want me to be. And that is getting worse in Canada. And sadly, I believe when that crash comes, when at that point there'll be a particular reset, and if countries like Canada have not made more progress in preparing for the new fake civilization that's coming after, is that Canada will be in a rough shape. And of course, documenting how I can't help here because they keep putting obstacles. They are not ready as a culture. Of course, nobody should say, what an unpatriotic thing to do, when I've documented years of trying to help. And there's like many dozens of blogs I could still be putting that are just biding their time to prove this. So it's up to you, Mr. and Mrs. Homo communia. Who do you want to be? Who do you want a role model to be as a person for your kids and grandkids? I don't have any of my own, but I know what makes me proud, and it's the choices I make, and